Yo, what's up, YouTube? So, today I am planning on making a YouTube video, and I can tell I'm getting fucking piled on these freaking energetic, yeah, these skeeters, dude, these freaking perspective skeeters, these freaking messing with my goddamn planet and fucking with all of us skeeters. Yeah. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about with that, I probably will sound crazy as shit, but just because there's so much misinformation, shit like that, getting passed around these days, I figured I'd make a little bit of a video kind of sharing what I think and some techniques that I know are helpful for yoga and all that shit. And if you're not, like, aware, you might be able to tell that I'm getting, like, crushed right now. But, yeah, yeah, enough about me. Who gives a shit about me, dude? This video is about you, the viewer, and techniques that might be helpful for kind of unionizing with the body again and not getting controlled or coerced or poked or made to do anything at all besides what you, the viewer, want to do. And I'm not talking about, like, people should just be allowed to go do whatever the fuck they want. I'm talking about in a moment-to-moment, second-to-second basis. Who is controlling your body? Who is controlling your body? Is it you? Or is something controlling you? It can't be super easy to, well, it can be pretty easy to answer that question once you find the unity. If you don't know where the unity is, then it can be tricky to find the unity. But yoga, yuj, union, these are all different words to describe the process that I'm kind of talking about here. If it seems like I'm arguing with something, yeah. Yeah. Fucking, yeah. Yeah. Just so this is said, the self, Brahman, God, whatever you wanna, that's not, it is not something other than you, the viewer. It's not above you. It's not behind you. It's you, the viewer. It's not something above you, giving you commands and all this shit. That's not how the self works. The self operates through each one of our perspectives from the other side, basically. It's not someone else. Do you understand? It's the you. The you that is looking through your perspective, it's you. It's not something else. And so if you have something on your back telling you that it's God and that you have to do this, and that to make it happy, and if you don't, you're XYZ type of piece of shit or whatever the fuck it says to make you do what it wants. Yeah, God is not some overlord. The self is the Lord of love, which rules all of our hearts from within. And the self is all that is. Remember the Lord of Love. God is love. Not some dictator. Not some fucking overlord, dude. And yeah. Yeah. So yeah. This self that I've been kind of like serving for a fat minute, when I thought I was serving, you know, like the self. Yeah, the self that I had been serving for a fat minute was in fact a impersonator of the self named Vritra. An 8-headed serpent type being type thing. Kind of like a toe. It's kind of what it looks like. And Vritra is kind of known as like I call him Viagra, but he's known as the enveloper or the swallower. He's known as drought. He's Vritra, drought. And yeah, the way that he tries to, he envelops a bunch of shit, consumes it, and then tries to, like, be its god by rising itself, its soulless self, up, to try and reach, not literally, I mean, like, this area, the Atlas, kind of the third eye, the portal. And then what it does is it tries to, like, contend with God now that it's at the same height. Now that it's, it tries to contend with God. And how does it do that? Well, it needs a specific source of power. And where does it get that specific source of power? Well, there's this one, and it's Vritra's best friend, man. Yeah. There's this one source of power in this universe whose name is Indra. Who kind of acts like if the sense of I, the ego, is the tool that the self uses to essentially live each one of our lives, Indra, or that force in the universe, is the force which allows God, the self, to enact will in the world. Yeah. So, Indra, the idea or the concept is the power of God. The force of nature, the force in nature, force in abstract, God's ability to force anything. Whether, digestive force, any of the forces, dude, any of them. It all is a fractal, which emanates from one initial source of power, which is, as it so turns out, a specific person. And I don't know who that person is, but this entity, this Vritra entity, which has been, fucking with us for a while, essentially needs that perspective in order to do what he's doing. In order to be able to do any of what he's doing at all, he needs to essentially force the self to do it for him, because what he's doing kind of goes against what, like, everyone else wants, which is to not be siphoned up into this fucking and to be siphoned up into this fucking, like, spaceship type thing, even though it's not a spaceship, or it doesn't fucking matter where, but siphoned away into some other location where they're then poked and prodded and made to do whatever the fuck it wants, like a rat in a cage. And dude, I don't know if this is just me that this is happening to, or has been happening to. I probably sound crazy as shit, dude. Probably sound crazy as shit. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, I don't know if this is only happening to me. Like, I don't know if the abstract notion of Indra's power is something that we sort of all have access to. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's the way that God, you know. Yeah, no. But yeah, that is true, that, yeah, that's the way that any of us exert our willpower, is through, that's the way that they exert willpower, is they need the point from which all power emerges permission, basically. And the way they get that permission is through, like, capturing somebody's perspective and then forcing that person's perspective to work for them in some kind of way. And the way they force somebody's perspective to work for them in some kind of way is they poke and prod emotionally at that person's perspective, like milking it dry, essentially. Milking it dry until all of its, I just fucking realized, dude, it's literally like atomic power. It's grabbing people's egos and then emotionally destroying them, which then releases all the stuck energy, just like an atom bomb. And then once the excess energy is released, it is then consumed and reallocated to some motherfucking overlord. And when that energy is reallocated to some motherfucking overlord, it also takes away any of the people's ability to resist the overlord, because how do we have critical thinking skills? How do we think for ourselves? How do we... Yeah, it's through the ego, the acumen, or the sense of I, or the knife of the intellect. That's how we cut through the bullshit. And so if none of us have access to our own acumens, our sense of eyes, our histories, and everything that we learn, yeah, it's just like any other predator, dude. It's dividing us, and then conquering us. I can see it. Ugh. Yeah, it's dividing us and then conquering us, and it's traveling across my net, this the interconnection of consciousness, or Indra's net. Yeah, it's like, those are the roads on which it travels. And sometimes it can get me to turn the net off. And rarely am I sure if this is a good idea or not, because I want, like, the interconnection of consciousness to be thriving, connected, and, you know, healthy and happy. Functional, dude. Functional. And I want each, like, node on that net to be lit up. However, that net, which we all use to communicate with each other and to kind of know where we're all at, and to, like, like our phones, consciousness-wise, like our phones. Yeah, even though we all use that to stay connected and to, that's also how these parasitic entities travel. They travel across this net, and they like, will show up behind you and shit. And that's how they get in. They try and tell you, like, they'll crack in through the back door. If you remember these YouTube videos with, like, the needle and all that shit, they crack in through the back door and then feed you all these intrusive thoughts to kind of break your boundaries down and get you, like, less sure of yourself and less rooted. And, yeah. The whole thing's just kind of ucky, to be honest. The whole thing's just kind of ucky, and it's got me sick to my stomach about. Just, yeah, the amount of hell, pain, misinformation, the shit that the people of this planet have gone through in the last few years without being able to talk. It's not just me, dude. Without, well, yeah, this is affecting everybody, I think. I'm pretty darn sure. And, yeah, this is affecting just about everybody. And it's been putting our planet through hell. It's been raping our planet energetically for chi. It's been a chi shakedown. And think about it, dude. How do you, if some parasitic entity has our planet essentially, like, mentally enslaved to, like, continue feeding its fucking cause or whatever the fuck, how would it keep us enslaved? Emotionally putting us all down and keeping us emotionally enslaved by convincing us that we're all lesser than, and convincing us all that we're, you know, doing something wrong by just being, and doing something wrong by just, like, living our own lives, thinking for ourselves, being individuals, and not being part of some fucking hive mind, which is similar. Do you understand? It's similar to how the self works and injures that and all that. It's similar, except the self does not interfere with free will. And this thing does. This thing tries to make it so that it tries to make you stop making, like, it tries to get you to not make mistakes you haven't even made yet. It's like reactive abuse. And so eventually you'll just be, like, sitting there, and you'll have thoughts like, I should get up and go do this, or something like that. Or I should get up and go do that, and something like that. Whatever. It has thoughts like that. Well, yeah. And how it works is the thing will essentially try and rob you of any of your self-imposed will. And so it will give you reasons to not do whatever the fuck it is that you want to do, because it wants you to do what it wants you to do. It doesn't matter what it is you want to do. It just doesn't want you calling the shots. And so how I've noticed it works is it tends to fuck, like, yeah, it tends to fuck with not only your perspective, but the perspective of everyone around you. And essentially what it will result in for each one of us is it, like, turns you against everyone in your life. And it turns everyone in your life, like, it turns us all against each other, so that we end up isolated, essentially, is the point. It turns us all against each other so that we end up isolated, and so that we're not helping each other. And anytime you try and talk to somebody about the symptoms of this shit, one, it makes you sound kind of crazy, and two, think about it. If you talk to somebody about this shit when it's going on, and their perspective gets fucking gobbled, and then some fucking skeeters in their head with their baldy eyes and all this shit, yeah, and you're trying to talk to them about, like, what's going on with you, in that moment, maybe if the person hasn't realized their perspective's been snatched, in that moment, the person that you're trying to talk to about, like, what's going on with you will look at you and tell you all sorts of wild shit, like, you know, completely invalidating your experience, essentially. And I've noticed, like, when I got sent to the mental hospital, dude, with all the pink slips and all that, dude, a whole bunch of the people that were in there were, like, you know, chilling. They seemed like pretty level-headed people. They were pissed because they got forced into a mental hospital, but I'm just saying, man. And that's just according to me. Like, there were some people in there who, yeah. But dude, like, yeah, I'm worried, basically. I'm kind of worried. I'm worried that this has been going on for a really long time. And I'm worried that it's resulting in us as a planet, as a humanity, as a, yeah, kind of getting divided in unprecedented kind of ways. Like, where it's not just group versus group, it's like every individual for themselves, except each individual doesn't even get their own free thought or free will. It's every individual for themselves, except we all have been serving, I mean literally like slaves, serving some fucking overlord. And I'm not talking about God. I ain't talking about the self, serving the self like that. The self doesn't need slaves to serve him. Do you understand? Like, the self is the source of everything. The self has everything. The self doesn't need slaves. The self doesn't need servants. The self doesn't need adherents. The self doesn't need followers. Like, cultists need that shit because they need influence, because they don't have any actual power. Cultists. And so the way that they pretend to have power, cultists, is through emotional manipulation, emotionally charged, you know, dogmatic rhetoric, and all that shit. Yeah. And I'm sure we've all been heavily mentally abused by this shit for, like, as long as it's been going on. But I don't know about y'all, but I am fucking tired of this shit. I'm fucking tired of this shit, dude. Life ain't supposed to be like this. Life ain't supposed to be like this. And it's been like this. It's been. Yeah, it's been that shit. And, yeah. And yeah. I don't know, I love how this was gonna be a yoga video. I haven't done any yoga yet. But yeah. Kinda like Nyan yoga, but dude, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do anything about this, but anything that I can do, I think I might be able to do something about this. Because, see, the thing is these things, these parasitic entities, yeah, what they like to do is they like to convince you, the host, or whatever the fuck, you know, that you can't do anything about their parasitism. You know what I mean? It's like if a leech was on your arm and you could hear what the leech was saying at you, what would it tell you? You can't pull me off. You can't take this off. You can't do anything about this. I'm just gonna suck your blood, and that's just kind of all there is to it, dude. You can't touch you. All right? Think about it. Yeah, that's kind of how they talk too in your head. Like, yeah, they try and convince us all that we can't do anything about what they're doing. Now, I don't know if you, the viewer, dude, I don't know if you, the viewer, can do anything about it. I don't know. But you might be able to. And I'm pretty sure I can do something about this. And if I can do something about this, maybe you, the viewer, can do something about this too. Because this thing likes to divide, and yeah, and it's been getting me to consider my experience of consciousness and me and like my life as like super different than everybody around me, and so none of it would. Yeah, I don't buy that shit. I don't buy that shit. It's all God. It's all God. And so, you know, like that's the baseline. That's the baseline, dude. Just because, yeah, it tried to say like, yeah, dude, yeah. That's the baseline. So everyone's experience of consciousness is going to be, yeah, that's not something that makes any of us unique. And so, yeah, I am pretty darn sure I can do something about this. And I don't know if you, the viewer, can, but it's worth a shot. Dude, it's worth a shot. So yeah, some basic techniques to kind of find the unity. To find the unity beneath the complexity. Because this idea of Indra, yeah, Indra is precisely like there's nothing behind that sense of I. There's nothing behind it. And so I don't know if that's like, if that changes the situation at all. It does. Yeah. Do you see how it's like derailing me, and like it's getting me to box myself up into a concept and then create some separation between what I consider my perspective to be versus like yeah. All dualities are false dualities. Yeah. This is what it's like trying to live with this fucking shit, y'all. I made this video, like, I started making this video about yoga. That's what it was supposed to be for, like, yoga tips, and it's been 30 minutes of me talking about myself. This is what it's like. Like, just trying to do anything at all. Trying to do fucking laundry, chores, get a job, and forget any of that shit. Any of that shit. Constant derailments, constant, yeah. And dude, if the more and more constant those derailments are, think about it, like, the further and further away from your life you will get. Do you see? Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. Yeah. So, yoga. 30 minutes in. Here's a great unionization technique. Alright? Close your eyes. And just shush. You'll notice when you close your eyes and just shush, well, here's a technique. We call this sensory withdrawal and closing the 9 gates of the body, or the indriyas. Notice one sense. So I can hear right now. I can hear background shit like my computer, a fan, something that sounds kind of like a vacuum cleaner vaguely off in the distance. And I can feel my skin. And basically the idea is unionizing all 9 of the senses, or all 9 of the gates. So hearing, I can bring that together with feeling. And I can bring that together with, so like touch, I meant. I can bring that together with smell. And with I can feel my brain getting messed with heavily. Basically the idea is unionizing each one of your senses. So finding a Yeah. So anyways. Anyways. Yeah, basically, like, any of the ways that you perceive reality right now, so through any of your 9 senses, any way that you perceive reality at all, if you're moving, so do you see? I made this video with one very specific objective. What I wanted to do, which was make a video about yoga techniques. What did it turn into? Think about that. That's the effect that these energetic parasites have on, like, my whole life. I don't know if that's how it affects you, the viewer, but yeah. 31 minutes of basically getting ready to start. It's like putting it all on hold, dude. Yeah. And, yeah. So, I don't, yeah. Something's gotta be done. Something's gotta be done, yo. And I already know it's not gonna be anything, like, violent or, like, some, yeah, it's gonna be, like, finding my peace, my internal peace. Well, I already know where, yeah. And then basically staying there. It's trying to get me. Yeah, basically, yeah, becoming non-reactive. So becoming non-emotionally reactive. So, like, any way in which this thing can poke or prod me to obey it, or to give it what it wants, or to move my body in any kind of way that it wants to. Yeah, basically diffusing the emotional charge to the present moment. Not out this way, dude. Not up in the perspective point. Yeah. Don't diffuse it anywhere but in. In. Not past, not around, not out there. Don't diffuse your emotional energy out there. Diffuse it inward towards the core of your personality, the self, the core of your heart. See, look at it. This is when we as a species, dude, when we as a species try to talk about this situation, this is how, this is what it does. Okay? Okay? Now, I happen to be aware of the fact that, like, yeah, I can't be forced to do anything that I don't want to do on an energetic level. Obviously, if cops busted down my door and, like, which, I don't know why the fuck they do that, but, yeah, I don't know why the fuck they do that, but obviously I can still get physically forced around, but on an energetic level, I can't be made to do anything I don't want to do. And, so yeah. I'm gonna keep trying to hold down the fort, essentially. And, yeah, this demon that's doing this to all of us is going down. It's going down. Do no harm. Shit. Alright. I'll see y'all later. Remember, y'all, non-emotional reactivity is the way. Non-emotional reactivity. Don't react. Choose to respond in the present moment. Choose to respond in the present moment. Don't become emotionally reactive. Don't become emotionally reactive. What's emotional reactivity? Poke, instant response. No spaciousness. No room for consciousness. No room for the soul. Spaciousness. Consciousness. 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 Make sure there's room between you and your thoughts. Make sure that make sure you can see the chain of events between stimulus and reaction. Make sure you're aware of your mind and you're aware of your thoughts and your emotions. Be aware of them, and they can't control you. If you're aware of your thoughts, and you're aware that they're just thoughts, and you're not your thoughts, or if you're aware of your emotions, which might not even be your emotions, then you're no longer, at the very least, you're no longer unconsciously reactive to them. At the very least. Unconsciously reactive. It doesn't mean your emotions go away. However, consciousness allows for there to be any amount of time at all between an emotional signal, a pang, whatever, and your reaction as the being, as the self. That you, the being watching this video, are the self. Yeah. So yeah, try and make sure that there's distance between stimulus and response. Choose to respond in the present. Think for yourselves. Listen to everyone, believe no one. Don't take anyone's word for it. Okay? Don't let nobody be a cult leader. Don't let nobody convince you that they're better than you or anything like that. Yeah. And if you have some sense that there's like heads around your head and above your head and all that shit, you know how the idea of Dattatreya and all that is? Yeah. Yeah. If those heads aren't constantly like, I'm telling you right now, those, yeah. The true self is not above you, the person. It's not above you, the true self is deepest core you. It's not above you. It's deepest core you. The self is not some overlord. The self is each one of our best friends. Nothing but love. And the self doesn't interfere with free will. And this fucking overlord, oh, it's been interfering with free will a whole lot. And free thought. It's creating for like this scenario where there's like wrong think. And I don't like it. There's no one right way. There's no one right set of dogmatic beliefs or any of that shit about the universe or metaphysics or anything like that. Yeah. Do you see this shit dripping from my nose? It's like venom, dude. Yeah, this thing's been fucking bothering me. But yeah. Yeah. Y'all, just stay safe out there, and yeah, Don't be a puppet. Don't be a fucking puppet. Don't be a puppet. Wake up. Realize you are the self. And wake up from this dream of separateness. Alright? Catch y'all later.